I had no idea the British press was so bigoted.
This one's wife, from real royalty to pretend royalty. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Whilst Harry and this one's wife cling on to their titles, it's clear that they have fallen from being amongst royalty and all that comes with that to now pretending at it. When this one's wife married into the royal family, she entered into a world that few truly experience. She had access to castles and palaces, and not only access to them, but areas of them that few people actually venture into. She had a huge clothing allowance. She had support staff, courtiers. She had security. She was granted patronages. She was able to undertake royal visits. She had the whole royal shebang, the whole 9 yards, something that she had dreamt about from being a child. She had actually attained it. As I've explained to you before, her narcissism was exceptional at taking this mediocre actress and elevating her to a member of the royal family. But it has failed to keep her there, for she soon ran away from the repeated threats to control, all generated by her own paranoia, and since then we have seen her fail, and fail again. As I have often explained to you, with lesser and mid-range narcissists, their narcissism invariably cuts off their own noses to spite their faces. And whilst this one's wife dreamt of being a royal and attained that, she then royally fucked it up. And she is now in a position whereby she is no longer real royalty, but she's actually just pretending at it. A woman that had this access, as I say, and threw it all away. How so? Well, as you know, one thing I regularly explain to you with regard to looking at the situations involving this one's wife and Harry, and also with regard to your own dealings with narcissists, is to go to the evidence. Not to rely upon the product of emotional thinking, conspiracy theories, speculative observations, and sometimes absolutely batshit crazy opinions that bear no resemblance to reality. If you go to the evidence, you will succeed. You obtain the evidence and use it against the narcissist. You look at the evidence in relation to the behaviours of this one's wife and also Harry. And in this instance, evidence has been provided by a particular contributor to the subreddit, This One's Wife, Saint This One's Wife. As you know, they use her real name. I do not. And I thought this particular post by a commentator there deserved greater amplification because it's an excellent example of the use of evidence rather than just errant speculation with regard to the behaviour of Harry and this one's wife. But it also demonstrates very neatly how she has tumbled, as a consequence of her narcissism, from a position of being amongst real royalty to now pretending. As you know, as part of the distraction and also the management of her facade and the pursuit of the prime aims, this one's wife posted the details of a Disney trip. And as you can see in the thumbnail, there's a particular photograph that has been taken, presumably by the professional photographer that accompanied them on this trip, where the family are all together. The face is obscured by love hearts. Now, in the thumbnail, you can't quite see, but I assure you, and you can go and find it elsewhere, that Lilibet is barefoot, and she's wearing a dress which looks more like a nightie and appears to be a little bit too large for her, and indeed is rather unfortunately see-through, which is rather not a good choice when you're parading a child on social media for reasons I didn't need to explain further. But we have this one's wife, as usual, making herself the centre of things by standing up with her rictus grin, whilst everybody else is much lower down than her, which, of course, I suppose is a neat representation of how she regards everybody beneath her. But what arises out of this is the commentary from the poster, who goes by the name of A.M. Reich. And I really thought that upon reading this, it deserved much more amplification. So I thought I would use its content for the purposes of a video. This individual, who clearly has considerable familiarity with Disneyland, explains that where the picture was taken, it was at something called the Dream Suite, but that was shuttered entirely in 2016. It was reopened in 2017 as the 21 Royal Experience. It now serves as a replicated elite dining experience fit for royalty, located at 21 Royal Street in the New Orleans district where the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is housed. It can accommodate up to 12 guests who are seated for a multi-course fine dining experience. It appears to be set up for corporate executives, although it could theoretically be used by other groups. If you watch the video, the one that this one's wife posted, you can see it's set up for adults dressed in their posh gala-type outfits. I beg your pardon, the video for the 21 Royal Experience, that it shows that it's set up for adults dressed in their posh gala-type outfits. They don't do accommodations for overnight guests. It's no longer a barefoot in a 92 sizes too big with major bedhead type of venue, obviously a reference to Lilibet. There's also grown men right outside that balcony, and perverts regularly frequent theme parks. But there's little Betty in her sheer 90 falling off her shoulder. The funniest part is that these two morons left the real deal. State dinners inside Buckingham Palace prepared by the finest Michelin star chefs. That is true royalty. Now, this one's wife has to rent her fake Royal 21 Experience, since that's the closest her soon-to-be titleless family will ever come to an actual royal experience. Even more funny is the location of where it is. The commentator explains that they used to fly out once or twice to Disneyland as it was a spouse perk. They had vouchers for all of their meals along with other VIP perks. They'd always eat at the restaurant in the NOLA part of the park because they had the best dinner menu. The inescapable issue was always the smell. Stagnant water has a smell unlike anything else. So this one's wife paid top dollar to pretend to be a royal for a few hours, but still had that musty pier smell the whole time. What a couple of idiots. So this one's wife, who had access to real royalty and all that came with it, is now reduced to hiring a plastic equivalency at a theme park, posing for pictures, and that's her version of reality. That she once was, albeit briefly, a real royal, and now has tumbled down to be a pretend royal, renting out suites in theme parks with stagnant water stinking nearby and posing for pictures with her barefoot daughter in a sheer dress. Yet again, her narcissism has generated this downfall. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.